we as marketers, particularly us digital marketers over the last decade or two, have become addicted to fiddling around with numbers in a spreadsheet, in a tool like Optimizer, in the interface itself, and kidding ourselves that that's marketing. And it hasn't been marketing, but we've got really, really good at optimizing and squeezing every last dollar out of that performance budget. But the performance budget globally compared to the brand awareness broadcast budget is tiny. And Google are eyeing off that big prize going, shit, there's a lot of money there. How could we get people to move up the funnel? But for most small businesses, huge sticking point, getting them to create a video, getting them to create anything like vaguely useful. So like you said, tons of inventory going unsold. That's a problem. Everybody's optimizing the crap out of the bottom of funnel, but they're not spending up here. That's a problem. Idiot humans making too many changes with the illusion of control. That's a problem. So you mix all of that together, plus you look back and see some of the stuff that they've done with shopping and sort of standardizing GTNs and all of that stuff, roll all of that together. And if you were a cynical person, which of course I'm not, you might call it inventory max.
All right, welcome to today's VidTao Podcast. Today we have very special guest, Mike Rhodes, along with VidTao and Inceptly co-founder Brat Vukovich. Really exciting chat talking about Performance Max. So Google's Performance Max campaigns, set up the latest scripts, all kinds of really interesting cutting edge media buying and advertising tactics, and then also getting into detail on all the latest updates with the GPT chat updates that are being used for all sorts of things in the advertising space. So really exciting chat between two media buying geniuses. So let's dive right in.
This podcast is brought to you by VidTao.com. VidTao is our free YouTube ad library and spy tool, research tool. It's VidTao.com. At VidTao, we have close to 1 million unlisted YouTube video ads that you can search, find, discover how they're doing on a day-by-day basis. So you can really see what ads your competitors are running, see ads in different markets that you can model to create new winning ads for yourself, and a whole lot more. It's all there inside VidTao.com. Plus, we have a premium edition. So the database is free to access, but then we also have a premium edition where you have full unlimited access to the database. And inside there, we also provide training. So we also run an agency called Inceptly. That's INCEPTLY, Inceptly.com, where we've managed over $150 million on YouTube. It's a video traffic agency, and we've worked with everyone from brands like Descript.com, Huel, to real scrappy direct response, info products, supplements, health, beauty, e-commerce, you name it, we've done it, and love sharing what we've learned. Every week we drop new training in there, everything from YouTube ad media buying to running e-commerce creatives on YouTube, to hardcore tracking and attribution tutorials to really level up your data science game for advertising, and everything in between. Right now, as we speak, we're working on a training regarding YouTube Shorts. Hopefully we'll be live by the time you hear this. On and on and on. This is our passion, is video advertising, and we want to share it with you inside of VidTao Premium. And actually right now, for a limited time, you can get access to VidTao Premium for a very special price. So if you go to VidTao.com, sign up for free, check out the database, upgrade to Premium for this very special price, you'll get access to all of the database and all the trainings. And also wanted to add that at Inceptly, we do free brainstorm calls with clients like you. So if you ever want to get help or ask questions about your YouTube ads, your video traffic on other platforms, we're available to chat. Just go to inceptly.com/call, CALL, and set up a time to chat. It's free, and we'd love to speak with you. Our team's waiting to speak with you. So without further ado, let's get into the show.
I'm a huge fan, and I want to take it off by telling one story. I think it was like 4 years ago, and we were in a group from Justin Brook from AdSkills, and John was doing like a huge outreach, getting like a PPC legends into the group. And I remember like Mike Rhodes' name popping out in that group, and immediately as it popped out, I wrote like, "Are you real Mike Rhodes?" And like in a few seconds, I got a confirmation that it's actually real Mike Rhodes. Like, I mean, that book with the Perry, I think it was a huge influence for a lot of marketers. So in that context, it's a great honor to have you now on our podcast.
Well, thank you for the very kind words, but it's really not a great honor. And I do remember that. Like, I remember you writing that because it stands out to me as like, why would someone have that? Why really? Yeah, my mum maybe, but yeah. Shout out to Justin and John at AdSkills. They're doing awesome stuff. Love what they do.
Yeah. So I think the great way to start the conversation, and having in mind our audience are probably geeks as we are. Ian told me that you have something incredibly interesting about performance packets, and I saw that video that you did, the podcast that you did with the optimizer. I forgot the name. The founder.
Yeah.
Performance hack. I listened like a 35 minutes, and I want to take it off by asking you, like, diver, are you excited about performance packs, or you are more than like, oh my God, you guys are doing this again, so I need to figure out this freaking thing and see what I'm going to do? Like, you happy that the thing is out there, or you are like, well, what am I going to do with this now?
Yeah, probably more of number two than number one. So I've been in this game for 18 years, and my MO has always been to teach. When I first saw, and I actually saw Perry Marshall's first trip to Australia in 2004, I went back to my mastermind group with my hair on fire going, oh my God, there's this thing. And I just wanted to tell everyone about it. And I'm a bit slow. It took me basically 2 years of doing that. I had a bit of a break in there, ran someone else's company for a bit. It took me 2 years to realize that of 10 people you tell, 9 of them say, mate, I don't care how it bloody works. Just do it for me, please. So it took me 2 years of that before I started the agency. So yeah, seen a lot of these changes from Google over the journey. And yes, every single time you're like, oh, really? Why did they? I had the coolest thing in the middle of there for a while. I was asked to go to this Google. They were doing their annual planning for the whole of Asia Pacific, and it happened to be in Sydney one year. They're moving around between Singapore and Tokyo, I think. And me and 3 other agencies were invited to this thing, and we sat there in front of like 40 Googlers. No boardroom table or anything. They just grabbed a chair, pulled it up, had a little circle of chairs, having their tea and biscuits. And I was just telling stories and talking about the tool and how we use it, how we help clients. It was very interesting 2 hours. A guy came over to me at the end and said, you're clearly a product geek. Clearly today, this is a bit more about strategy and all higher ups. I'm the product geek in Google. He was the head of Google Ads globally, gave me his card and said, we should chat. And for the next couple of years, we would have these like Zoom calls, maybe even Skype calls back then, once every sort of 3-4 months. And he would show me some of the stuff on the roadmap 12, 18 months down the road. And I would go, oh, this won't work. And this is good. This is bad. And he would say, like, well, how are you going to use it? Why would you not use this? And it was fantastic. But that was like 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. I loved that. So there's always been these changes, right? And sometimes they get it, and sometimes you have no idea why they're doing it. But look at the history of like just how genius and strategic they've been. Like, buying analytics to give it away for free, buying YouTube for 1.6 billion. Everybody thought they were insane back then because it wasn't making any money at all back then. But they were thinking about, where's AI going? We need this training set of data. They bought Android and then gave that away for free to all the phone makers in the world because data. Genius long-term thinking, and you can't always tell where they're going. But yeah, they always do it, don't they? They always make these changes, and occasionally the community gets to fight back and rally, but it's not Star Wars, is it? Like, the rebels don't win in this one. They will push through the changes. So to answer your question, finally, at first I was a bit like, oh, bloody hell, really? Like, but for our clients, they need quality traffic. They need people discovering their websites that don't yet know about them, because they're doing bloody awesome stuff and creating great products and great services. So you got to play the game, right? You have to go to the traffic store and you have to get the best traffic you can get. And that means playing the game. And even if you don't like the game, you play the game to the best of your ability. And yeah, I don't know, maybe it was the beginning of this year, that switch for PMax specifically flipped of, all right, it's clearly not going away. And if anything, we can see other campaign types becoming more like PMax. This is clearly the future as they see it. And clearly they're not going to wind this one back. So let's dig in. Let's figure out how to make it work as best as possible.
Yeah. So my reptilian marketing brain is now switching into marketing, like position. So I want to follow up. When they introduced PMax, like what was the pain point from their perspective of going that route? Like, okay, we have this situation. We have this situation. We're going to come up with this crazy product that will combine all the bloody inventory that we have available. We're going to bundle that all into one thing. We're going to give zero control to these Dumbletrons on the other side that make too many changes. We're going to do all that, and we're going to let the whole world scream on us for like 2 years. We're going to stick to it. Why?
Because the whole world has no choice, and they're going to have to learn to play the game if they want quality traffic, is the short answer. The longer answer is, as you said, these idiot humans keep making all of these changes. God, just get out the way, let the machines do their thing. So they have, obviously doubled down, and they're doubled down again on the AI. That genie's out of the bottle. That's not going to change. I think the bigger picture is around, the obvious picture is around money. We as marketers, particularly us digital marketers over the last decade or two, have become addicted to fiddling around with numbers in a spreadsheet, in a tool like Optimizer, in the interface itself, and kidding ourselves that that's marketing. And it hasn't been marketing, but we've got really, really good at optimizing and squeezing every last dollar out of that performance budget. But the performance budget globally compared to the brand awareness broadcast budget is tiny. And Google are eyeing off that big prize going, shit, there's a lot of money there. How could we get people to move up the funnel? YouTube was part of that, paid $1.6 billion for it, but no one was using it. Very, very few advertisers were advertising on YouTube. The ones that figured it out, like my mate Tom Breeze in the UK, genius with YouTube, were doing incredibly well. But for most small businesses, huge sticking point, getting them to create a video, getting them to create anything like vaguely useful. So like you said, tons of inventory going unsold. That's a problem. Everybody's optimizing the crap out of the bottom of funnel, but they're not spending up here. That's a problem. Idiot humans making too many changes with the illusion of control. That's a problem. So you mix all of that together, plus you look back and see some of the stuff that they've done with shopping and sort of standardizing GTNs and all of that stuff, roll all of that together. And if you were a cynical person, which of course I'm not, you might call it inventory max, right? They've created this product that now gets to sell all of this inventory. Now, the bit I'll give them credit for, this also happened, and this is, I think, really a fluke rather than genius strategic planning. But it just so happened that it sort of came in right after Tim Cook's little attack on Facebook and ITP and all of that stuff, where we have seen a ton of advertisers across the world pull money. I mean, look at Facebook's share price, right down 70%. A lot of people have pulled money away from Facebook because of the reporting. They can't prove that Facebook is making them the money that it used to make. And so they've removed, and most of that money was more sort of mid, maybe top funnel. So all of that's come out. People's performance has dipped a little bit later. And then for those clients really leaning into performance max, we're sort of seeing that trend reverse. Now, I don't think that's genius strategic on our part. It's just you being forced to spend a bit more money a bit further up the funnel. And again, if I were a cynical person, I might imagine how Google could maybe just put their thumb on the scale a little bit there over the next year or 3 and push some more of that budget further up the funnel where there's huge potential to spend, because down the very bottom where we've all been playing is so limited and so crowded. They got everything they could out of that. The opportunity for them to grow, to return to shareholders and continue to grow their share price is to bring in more and more dollars, and there's only one place for that. I think that might be part of I'm not a lawyer, I don't play one on TV, allegedly, that might be part of the grand plan.
Okay, so we kind of, I would say, like, figure out the pain point for Google. I mean, obviously they're not going to pay for our bill because we figure out what was pain point for them. But how the process looked like for you? Okay, I'll tell you for us, if that could be an starting point. We got approached. I mean, we had terrible experience with Google Racks. One huge account that we had. Like, you have no idea. Terrible is even light word, but we have like 60, 70,000 people following VidTao, so I'll be light version of Brat. And it was just like, always, why did you do this? But all of a sudden, we are in 2020, and they have one German guy, and they said, like, we have this new product. You want to try it out? It's called PMax. They do all this. I mean, back then, they didn't had any kind of reporting, nothing. Just like a cost conversion call. There was no performance insights, nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Well, and right at the beginning, it was only all conversions. You couldn't report on conversions. You could only report on all conversions. You couldn't choose which conversions went into the thing.
Like, whatever it was there, it's gonna. So that was our experience, and honestly, from our company perspective, I made a huge mistake because somehow I got anchored to that disgusting relationship with the Google reps. So we run that Performance Max for like 3 to 4 months, 5, 6 months, and we let it sit there. So we kind of denied. So I'm telling this story because I want to hear your story, because our story was, first we wanted to deny existence. Then we were like, okay, here, let's deal with this. How the experience was for you?
Yeah, pretty similar. And I think we tend to do that with every change, right? When RSAs first rolled out, I just wanted to ignore that for the longest time. Then Brad Geddes came out with some great research that showed that the machine was massively favoring RSAs, and that if you weren't using them, your impressions just weren't there. So you had to start leaning into it, even though it was optimizing for CTR and not conversion or conversion value. It was purely like, this thing's going to go for the clicks. But I think every change that they've done has been the same. Broad match, when that was the first one, when that came out, we're like, oh, awesome, we embraced that. But then they took it away because us idiot humans were using it wrong, apparently. And they told us the way they wanted us to use it, but we were all using it wrong. It was handy, but match types. Why do we even have the concept of match types anymore? Because they as somebody said, I can't remember who this was, it might have been Fred at Optimizer, they need a rebrand. Like, broad, phrase, and exact is meaningless these days. It's so confusing for new people coming in, because negs still need that, but keywords don't. So PMax, yes, we're lucky. We've got a couple of clients that are pretty aggressive and like let's try everything. And yes, test budget, see what it can do. We actually had some pretty good early success on a couple of big clients, but how am I supposed to do this? How am I supposed to manage this thing? Like, I've got no data, like you said. Like, who was it? I think it was Andrew Lolk on an Optimizer call on one of the PPC town halls a few months ago, had this really, really good line that it actually isn't control that we all want and that we miss. We never had control anyway. We had the illusion of control, but it's actually not control. We don't want to go back to fiddling around and changing bids all bloody day, right? It's the ability to have insights. It's the ability to have insights and actionable insights, passing those on to clients. That's what we all miss, and that's what we crave, because without that data, we can't tell the client anything. We can't tell them what we're learning. So things are improving slowly there, but I think the engineers see it as, well, the only reason to have data is so that you can take action. We're not allowing you to take any of those actions, so why do you need the data? There we go. We won't give you the data. It's like, no. We can use that data in a bunch of other places. We can use those insights in a bunch of other places. Give us the bloody data. And of course, there's a lot of people. Kirk Williams has been particularly vocal on this. Good on him for saying, well, we've paid for that data. We've paid for it. So there's a fair argument there that we should have at least some of it, not none of it. And of course, people are marking their own homework. And I think that gets more problematic with GA4. That's a whole different rabbit hole that we could go down, and more modeling conversions. And we have no way of knowing. We were looking at the differences for one particular YouTube campaign just the other day. And in the scheme of things, it's a tiny, tiny amount, right? Without talking out of school, this client has well over 100,000 conversions a month. And we're talking about the difference between 3 and I think it was 40 or 48, depends on which attribution model we used. But GA4 was saying either 40 or 48, depending on the model. Universal was saying 3. Client is still using Universal. So how do you explain the difference between those two numbers? The only thing that we could see was modeling conversions, where Google is attributing conversions to that particular in GA4, whereas in UA, it can't do that. So
I don't want to even jump into that side.
We should probably just avoid that one.
Yeah, for me, that is honestly like one of the biggest obstacles of digital marketing is the siloing effect of the traffic. Like, and Google search, nothing communicate with each other. Everyone is creating a mess, and I think the marketers being biggest kind of like marketing victims easily fall into GA4 and all these attribution whatnot tools and go down that rabbit hole without really getting the answers. But kind of wanted to get back to the PMax.
Yeah.
You guys kind of ignored that it exists. Some clients tested it out and it started working. Like, what type of the clients was there? Like, what was, like, when you decided to go strategic about the PMax, what were the first insights where you were like, okay, I can use this not just on this client, but this can work on a scale. When I say scale, I mean an agency scale. We can use these insights to use it on different accounts and other accounts that are kind of similar to what we work here.
The forcing function was probably smart shopping going away. Of, okay, now we've got a choice. We can either go back to what we used to do, regular legacy shopping, and we had some really good setups for that, really good systems in place, or we can lean into this, because it's going to be very tricky for a lot of clients to do both, and PMax obviously cannibalizes shopping unless you're very, very careful about how you're segmenting products. All right, let's lean in, give it a go. And then one of the other reasons to really lean in was this. I went back to learning JavaScript middle of the year. Simo Ahava said he was bringing out this JavaScript for digital marketers course, but it wasn't going to be absolute beginner. So, okay, better brush up on my JavaScript skills. Haven't done that in a long time. Free Code Camp, by the way, fantastic free course, 113 lessons, I think it is. Really, really good. You follow the exercises. And that got me back into Google Scripts, which I'd done a little bit of way back, but then we had in-house devs. And so I just sort of, that muscle atrophied. And I started playing around with scripts and PMax and going, there's got to be some data here somewhere. Somebody posted somewhere on LinkedIn, Twitter, that if you looked at a campaign view, you could see the number of YouTube views and the average cost per view, put those together, you can figure out your YouTube cost. But that only works if you have a YouTube campaign in the account. So then we were creating dummy YouTube campaigns for all the other accounts just to turn on those columns in the UI. And then I started thinking, well, hang on, knowing a little bit about how the API works, I wonder if, and sure enough, regardless of if there's a YouTube campaign there, if you pull it from the API, all of the data is there. This is interesting. And then started digging into listing groups and asset groups and what information is there. And I wish you could pull data on the audience signals, but you can't. Trust me, I've checked.
Wow.
And you can't, and you can't pull apart other. So what we've done is by something, and if you've got a lot of listing groups, and listeners, viewers watching this will know if they've got a lot of listing groups, it is painful in there, right? There is no export button all of a sudden. We don't have the filter that we used to have. We used to be able to filter your product groups in shopping and say like, max CPC greater than 1 cent, and you would get rid of all of those lines of data, which are just what Google call the subdivisions, all of the sort of the roll-ups of your data. So you might have 3 lines of data with exactly the same number on. So even if you do a cut and paste and try and paste it into a Google Sheet, the cut and paste doesn't work, and you have to do loads of fancy stuff in Sheets to be able to read the data. But then you've got this data like duplicated, triplicated. Oh my God, it was so painful. If you've got one listing group, it's fine. You can go into there. And the reason for doing all of this is to figure out how much you're actually spending on shopping. So if you sum up your spend in all of the listing groups, you can work out how much money has gone sort of to shopping ads. There's maybe dynamic remarketing is mixed in there. We don't really know whether that shows up in there or in other, because is it display, is it shopping? But we know that these products have had a bunch of clicks, a bunch of money going towards them. Therefore, I sent a message to Ginny, Google Ads liaison, on Twitter the other day, because the number of impressions that we get from listing groups is more than the number of impressions for the entire campaign. What? Because it works on products, not so. So it's a bit of a mess. But at a high level, you've got this money that you spend on a PMax campaign. You can sum up all of the little bits of listing groups, and that tells you roughly how much you've spent on shopping. You can do the YouTube trick, and that gives you roughly how much you've spent on YouTube. And then you've got whatever's left, which is the sort of the DSA search component, your display, your marketing, Gmail, God knows what else, discovery. It's all in there. And so my coding is not very good, but I was able to pull that data, stick it in a spreadsheet, and my spreadsheet skills are pretty glad and good, even if I do say so myself. I did all the fancy stuff in a spreadsheet. I know that a good coder could create all of this amazing stuff, but that was my big insight of, I know enough to be able to just pull the raw data. I can do all the fancy stuff inside the sheet. Oh, this is easy. And so all of a sudden we had charts and timelines, because you don't even when you go into listing group, there's no chart at the top of the page. There's no export button. All the stuff that we used to try and have a little bit of insight all disappears. So now it's all inside this script, which I'm sure we'll link to it in the show notes or whatever, but GitHub, Agency Savvy, you'll find it. We'll share it. I've giving this away for free for weeks now, and LinkedIn has gone bananas over it.
So one thing, WebSavvy is quite a big agency. Like, how many people you have in-house?
This week, 32-ish, I think.
But this is what I find fascinating about really. And then this is what I find fascinating about agency owners like yourself. You just told a story of like 5-6 minutes where essentially you, as the head of the company, said, it's my priority to go to learn this bloody JavaScript so I can figure this thing out. Because, and I want to ask you that question. Why do you do that? Because I can tell you for myself, I can't resist the urge to find it out. And that's why I do. It's just like, I can't wait anyone else. I have to be there. Or there is maybe the other component, which is you want to figure it out on your own so you can pass it later on to the vertical of the company. I just wanted to chime a little bit there, just to get feedback because we have a ton of agency owners out there.
The short answer is because I'm stupid. The longer answer is I need to reread Dan Sullivan's book, Who Not How. Someone told me the other day I'm the most curious person they've ever met. And they meant it as a compliment. I'm not sure. But yeah, I just want to figure it out. I've got more time to do that. Like the team are full chat, looking after clients. And if they had the time, I know that many of them would, and diving in. And we've had some great discussions. But my job is to remove roadblocks for the team. I'm not needed as much in the day-to-day now. So, and I love this shit, right? Like spending all day being able to, when you're in flow and time just disappears.
Yeah.
That sadly, I need to get out more, but that sadly is me when I'm digging in data and playing in spreadsheets, like 3 hours can just disappear and okay, it's lunchtime. It's actually dinner time. I should probably eat now. Like you said, I'm just curious. And then I've discovered over the journey, like I said, my MO was always to teach. I've discovered over the journey, I'm a teacher at heart. And then I want to let everybody know. That's the bit that probably annoys them. That's the G, right? I've got this new idea. We should implement this, but I just
who holds you accountable there? Because obviously, probably like most of curious people, like every week there is a new priority. Like how you manage priority thing. So that's kind of the jump.
So yes, so I have a general manager now. She is absolutely wonderful, a brilliant people and project manager. And we, as a management team, meet every week and we update. So we've sort of implemented EOS, you probably know it. So we have our quarterly rocks, and then we have, weekly, where are you at against that? And so that's my first priority. I have to be doing my weekly progress towards that quarterly rock. If I can squeeze in time to fiddle around with the spreadsheets, then I will. Okay, but I'm still going to be home for dinner at 5 o'clock every night. Like that's negotiable.
So going back to the PMax, you figure out that script and the whole thing is now going on. And you kind of passed it to your team. What are like the biggest leverages that you guys took out of that whole process? Now you have some data. You're turning now this data into insight. How you use it to make results go in a better direction for you? Like, is shopping now working better for you, or just give us a little insights there?
So one of the use cases I wanted was, my fear was if you crank budget up on PMax, that it's suddenly going to take advantage of all of that extra money available to it. And it's going to grab onto that money, spend it all on YouTube and display. Performance will go down, but that's going to be lagging. And you just won't know, because of the complete lack of data in the interface, that that's happening. So that was one of my first use cases. I wanted to be able to see the timeline of that YouTube and other spend. And so when we change the budget, is there a big change? One of the other things we've discovered, particularly in accounts with many PMax campaigns, is we've seen a lot more YouTube spend on those campaigns with much lower ROAS targets. And for whatever reason, I won't go into all the details of why that occasionally happens. Often it's a client thing where they want, no, I really want to push this. I don't care about blah, blah, blah results. So much lower target. It seems like the machine is like, well, shit, you said you only wanted a 150 ROAS. I can probably get that with two hands tied behind my back on shopping, spending this much money over on shopping. But you said you wanted that as an average. And we could spend half an hour talking about the concept of averages, right? But Google then gets to spend it.
No, let's spend some time talking about the averages, because I had this conversation with my team this morning. How much did it cost to generate 100 conversions? Like, not how much money was spent divided by the amount of conversions that we had, but how much did we pay for each of these 100 conversions? Like, can you give me your 5 minutes talk on the averages and how you just...
Okay, where to start? We'll talk about conversions. We'll talk about how Google, we definitely need to get Performance Planner in here. Let's just go back to basics. 100 conversions, right? I hate pie charts, but picture a pie chart for a minute. There's a chunk of money there that has gone on. Let's go just back to basics and search, because it's easier for most people to get their head around. right? There's a chunk of that pie chart, which is money that you've spent for 0 conversions. When your client goes off to a shitty agency and gets an audit done because they're a bit bored, that audit will come back saying, if you'd let us run this account, we would have got rid of all of these keywords. We would have saved you $23,000 last month alone. Look at all these keywords they should have negged out but didn't. Tish, tish. Bollocks. I'll get to why that's bollocks in a second. Then you've got this other big chunk of the pie chart, which is keywords that got 1 conversion. And we're just talking about, last month, let's say. And between them, those keywords have spent very little money, but got you a big chunk of your conversions, maybe even 50%. And then you've got the final chunk, which is keywords that are converted maybe 2 or more times. And that's where, a bunch of your conversions come from. But that's your short head, high volume keywords. The number of keywords that make up that last chunk is tiny. It will be maybe 50, 100 keywords out of the 5,000, 10,000 that you have across all of your non-brand search. So why was it bollocks? Because you don't get those once, you don't get to find those search queries that convert once without having all of those keywords that many months get 0. But you don't get to have the ones without the zeros. You can't get rid of all of those keywords. You can't just neg out all of those zeros, because then the following month, you'll only get conversions from those short head, high volume keywords, and you will over optimize the account and performance will tank. Those ones though, to your point, that's the bit that makes the whole thing work. It's all of those flukes. It's all of those search queries that got 3 impressions, 1 click, 1 conversion, and cost you 38 cents that bring down the average CPA for the whole shebang, which is what makes it all work. And then you've hit your target, or maybe even slightly beat your target for the month. You got your 100 conversions for $100 each. You spent your 10 grand, whoop-de-doo. But that little piece in the middle, all of those keywords that only converted once, out of your 10 grand, they probably spent less than $100, but they bring the average down so that the whole thing works. And the whole thing's predicated on the law of large numbers, and people will tend to act the same over a long period of time, which will do your head in if you think too much about that. But those 10,000 people last month should behave the same as a different group of 10,000 people this month, who will behave pretty much the same as 10,000 people next month. Think about that too much without a beer in your hand, and that will mess with your head. So Google want you to focus on averages. They don't want you to think about incremental. So to make that point, let's think about Performance Planner. Performance Planner's changed a bit over the journey, and I can tell loads of stories about that. I've gone and built Chrome extensions. I've gone and dug through JSON files to find the data, again, because I'm an idiot. I did hire developers for this one, though. I didn't do all of that myself. But I was never able to get the Chrome extension approved through Google, but I spent ages poring over data. Long story short, we reverse engineered the formula that Google used in Performance Planner, because when we started doing more PMax back then wasn't available in Performance Planner. So how the hell are you going to forecast your PMax? Well, we figured out the formula, stuck it all in a spreadsheet, and now I can plug in one data point. What are you spending now, and what revenue are you getting from any of your campaigns? And I can tell you what revenue you'll get with a change in spend. So we can now forecast all of our campaigns into next month. Our most crazy client, we've got about 40 different buckets that we forecast daily across 4 countries. It's a crazy spreadsheet. But the simple one is just one simple curve, right? Go back to that one simple curve. Google will show you, when you use Performance Planner, where you are now. So you're spending X and you're getting Y back. And then you can click on that curve and say, well, okay, what will I get? Let's say you're spending, I don't know, let's keep the maths easy. You're spending $1,000 and you're getting $10,000 back. Great, 10 to 1. And now if you click on that curve a bit further up to the right, what's going to happen if I'm spending $2,000? Well, you're going to get 14 grand back. And then it will show you the average ROAS at that point. And maybe your average ROAS has gone from 10 to, I'll try and do the math. I can't really do it in my head, but 7 and a bit. And you think, well, that's still profitable. Go on then, that's okay. But if you start to break that spend down into chunks, so what's the ROAS of my first $5,000 and my second $5,000 and my third $5,000? The incremental ROAS on that last chunk of spend is horrible.
Yeah.
It's horrible. But the average has only come down a little. And it's my biggest pet peeve with Google and the interface.
So essentially, I think for the viewers, this will make a lot of sense. Your frustration for the PMax for scaling up that budget was the ability to see this incrementality on the larger volume of the spend.
Yeah, so I'd been working on that for a while. I remember doing a podcast with Ralph back at Traffic and Conversion, I want to say 2018. I'd been working on this idea of the profit curve and this idea of incrementality. And then a few months after that podcast, Google brought out a performance planner, and I was like, oh my God. And suddenly I had the data, and it proves a theory. I was so excited about it. I downloaded all the time, playing with the data, and oh my God, this theory proves out, but it was super limited. And then, we fast forward to PMax. I want to be able to forecast that. So there's two things going on. There's the incrementality, and then just the visual, being able to visualize what's actually happening inside of PMax. Put those two together, and now we've got not control, but we can see when the machine is going crazy. If we change a budget, what's happening, we can see just even product. It's just so much easier to see what are our top products, which products are getting high spend.
Okay.
Again, remember though, when you see that data, certainly that's in the script at the moment, it's not the actual revenue of that product. It's saying this product was shown in lots of ads, and when people clicked on that ad, they went on to buy. But it doesn't mean they bought that product, but that ad caused this amount of revenue. So these ads are bringing lots of people in that turn into revenue. So it's just that we've got to remember that. So it's helped with that. It's helped with one of the other big things that it's helped with is, and these are constant, not arguments, discussions that we're having internally. I'm actually setting up a debate internally. I think we might be having it this afternoon, where a couple of the team are going to argue that the creative assets in PMax really matter. And myself and one of the other guys are going to argue that actually they don't. Because what we've seen across the board, 85, 86% of spend across PMax, across all of the campaigns, across our MCC, and it seems to be a similar number with other people that we've shared the script with that have been kind enough to share some numbers back with us. If 85% of your spend is shopping, that ad is obviously created automatically for you from the feed, whether it's dynamic remarketing or a regular shopping ad, there's only 15% left then for YouTube and other. Now, other, I would argue there's a chunk of that that's your DSA text ads, and potentially a chunk of that that's a remarketing ad of some description. But YouTube, we are generally seeing is a pretty tiny percentage of spend, thankfully, across the average. I don't know exactly what the average is, but probably 3
When you
5%.
say thankfully, is that biased by the type of the clients that you guys serve?
Oh, must be, yeah, because I'm thinking about the average client finds it very difficult to get creative to you. That's why Google had the problem with YouTube before. That's why we were talking about before about businesses don't know what to say in a video. They don't want to be on camera. They're just, it's expensive to go hire a proper video production company to create that. So it's always been a sticking point getting videos. That's why someone like Tom Breeze, genius, he would literally send a camera to someone and give them the script, stand in front of this, do it 5 times, take the SD card out, keep the bloody camera, send the SD card back to us, and we will create all of your videos. Brilliant, right? Because it's such a sticking point. And then Google thought they'd solve that with PMax with, just upload a few images, we'll create a video for you. My 5-year-old could do a better job in PowerPoint of creating a video of those videos that they automatically create. They're horrible, right? But what the script has shown is consistently those videos aren't getting shown much. Therefore, do not, dear client, go spend 10 grand creating a video because it's hardly going to get used. Little trick, and I don't know if this still exists, but it did in the early day of PMax. It didn't have to be your video. You didn't have to choose a video from the linked YouTube account. You could put any video in there. So we've got clients that sell, branded products. Great. Go to YouTube, find a video from one of the brands that you sell. Let's throw that in there because that would be better than Google creating its PowerPoint from 2006 video. And we'll just use that because it's hardly ever going to get seen. Sure, it hasn't got a nice big blue button at the end. It doesn't lead people to your site, but it doesn't matter because you're going to spend $4.50 on it. We just need something in there to stop the machine making rubbish up. Or, of course, you did the feed-only PMax. We did quite a lot of that back in the day, but Google have obviously, they are well aware of that loophole and are shutting it down. I think Fred said in the town hall that if you can't now create a new PMax campaign that's feed-only. They stop you doing that. You can't save it now, but you can then save it with all the assets, and then you can open it and you can remove all the assets.
Do you have the way to influence the proportion of the spend on a search and a shopping?
In terms of within PMax,
like
how much is it spending on search?
Yeah, like how much it can spend? No.
Well, I can show you on the screen, so you get this other portion, but you don't know what that other is made up of. You don't know how much of that is the DSA search bit and how much of that might be discovery ads, Gmail, whatever else Google is going to decide.
How is this thing called? Remind me of the exact name. Go for new customers, work for you guide.
Or the new customer acquisition thing, where you never use it. I hate it. Really? Kirk Williams has written some great stuff on this, where what they should have given us was different ROAS targets and have this ROAS target for new and this ROAS target for everybody else. Yeah. The reason I hate it is it screws all of the reporting. It's adding this arbitrary revenue amount. So you get a $160 sale, and then you follow what's in the interface and you say, oh, if it's a new customer, I'll add $85.14 made up revenue to the conversion value, which artificially inflates the ROAS for that. But then you've got to back all of your numbers out of that and be very careful about, well, what should your ROAS target be? And then when we're scaling this, and we talked about averages before, and our ROAS goes from an 8 to a 7, when we spend this extra 10 grand, what does that actually mean? What was the incremental ROAS on that extra 10 grand? All of that gets so much harder to figure out when it's artificially adding made up revenue to your conversion value. So I hate it. We've tested it, putting that new conversion value in as a cent so that you can at least see it, but it's not going to change any of the optimization, but you can, 53 were new customers. But we've been using scripts for ages in Shopify so that when the conversion happens and when that person hits your thank you page in Shopify, you basically check the Shopify database and then fire a different conversion pixel if that's a known person versus not known. So we've had for years different conversion actions in our account to be able to see if this conversion was new or not. And it doesn't line up very accurately with Google's data. I think Google looking at that in terms of, for this cookie, I suppose, a bit more than that these days with Google Signals, but for this person, do I think this is new for the business or not? Yeah. We're looking at the database and saying, has this email address ever bought from us before or not? Because if they have, they're returning. And if they haven't, we'll assume they're new. And there's can be some big differences between those. How are we going for time? 10 minutes.
Okay, I'm sorry, I have hundreds of questions. One question that I think, one also question that I think will be actionable. What do you do about the setup of a PMax and a branded search? Do you keep branded search running on a search campaign, exclude branded terms on the PMax, or you shut down branded search campaign?
Yeah, I've seen a bit of chatter about this recently on LinkedIn and other places. Our default is not to try and, we did right at the beginning, get the rep involved and neg things out. There's so much mess around that and other things to think about in terms of attribution and then what happens with remarketing. And so our default is not. I want to try that out. We haven't done that as a default. I like the idea. Neg all your brand out of PMax, run a legacy shopping, and then that way all the branded terms are going to go in there. You can actually check because, wow, search query, what a concept. We can see the data. But I don't think it's just quite as simple as that. But yes, I am keen to try that on some accounts with simpler setups. Solid.
Okay. And also one question that we had and that insight was kind of circling around, that the PMax campaigns have priority on the auction. Is that something that is true that you see? And, how would, I think that's one of the things that they use to push for the adoption of the product, or that is it intentional in a way to do something that.
Well, if you think about it, it's going to allow the most traffic to flow into PMax. They can presumably, if they could have a setting, I don't think they do, but they could have a setting on the back end that goes, crappy traffic. No, leave that where it is. Pull the good stuff into PMax. PMax is going to look good. Your old stuff's going to look bad. I mean, Google have form for this, right? They have a lot of history where they've got some quite clever ways to get adoption of the new thing. For years it's been the Google rep saying you must use this, because their bonuses were tied to adoption of the new thing, because engineers need the data to be able to tweak the thing and find out if actually this is a good new thing or not. And sometimes it hasn't been. Once or twice they've rolled things back. Other times pushed on anyway, but they need data, right? Now we've got bloody OptiScore and auto-applied recommendations, which have just bypassed the reps entirely. I know, there's another half. We don't need to go there. Everybody hates most of that, right? And back to our debate about creative, the guys that are saying it is important are saying it isn't important yet, but it's going to be more important, which is a good argument. But right now, it's basically almost all the ads that are going to show are based on the feed, and therefore your images, even your text stuff for the BSA portion and the video are not that important. Can I ask you a question? What do you guys do as a default in terms of audience signals for your PMax setup? How many asset groups do you tend to kick off with? What audience signals do you use?
Well, essentially, when we set it up, like we try to keep the assets groups based on a theme. Our setup on a creative teams, our setup is different than yours, because I think we serve different type of the clients. Like, we usually serve, our customer is offer based. It's not, we never have SKU based clients where we have many SKUs where we are capturing, different type of the lower funnel attention. Essentially, we are always to the face. So PMax for us is just like a protection asset from a branded search, like much easier to manage than branded search. And then sometimes we would completely exclude the feed and try to get, that was one of the hypotheses that we used. When we heard that the auction priority goes to the PMax, we wanted to exclude the feed from a PMax, push the higher budget, and try to make a PMax spend on a YouTube. On some accounts, we figure out that like view column and then calculate the amount of the money spent on a YouTube. And on some accounts that actually work. And usually for the auto signal, we will bundle everything in. Like, our current setup is as many signals as possible put in, as long as the conversion tracking is in place, which is, I think, I wanted to ask that question, but I think this is a good intro. Like, what would be your number one thing in the context of the AI? And then I would have the last question in that context. Number one thing for any Google Ad account that is, without this, don't even spend one cent on your traffic.
Easy. Conversion tracking. Like, think about the data that you're feeding back into the machine. At a minimum, if you're e-com, conversion value. At a minimum, if you're a lead gen business, then it gets a bit more complicated, but at a minimum, at least the number of leads you're getting. Ideally, you would have different types of leads. In a perfect world, you would score those leads differently. and you would optimize to some sort of lead score rather than just the sheer number of leads, because a lead is not a lead, is not a lead, right? They are all different. Web form leads are different from phone calls. If you've got a more complicated form, your sales guys look at that form and go, that'll be a good one. That's a shit one. Like there's the way they fill out the form, the fake phone number, the fact they didn't tick all of your checkboxes or write something in the box down at the bottom. You generally know who the good leads are going to be. So score them and give the machine that data. Don't wait 6 months until you finally close the deal and then load up your offline conversion tracking. Like give the machine a signal straight away. I think this is going to be a huge, huge thing over the next 12 months of lead scoring and the speed at which you get that data back into the machine. I was writing a blog post yesterday. I don't know why. I need to reread who, not how. How, not who not how, whatever it is. I've lost my train of thought. But a differentiation, right? If you think about the machine as a black box, systems, you have an input, you have a system, you have an output. The machine is becoming more and more of a black box. The input to that system is your creative, your website, your landing pages, your offer, the look and feel of your ads, your videos, all of that as the input. The output is data. And that data we use to feed back to the humans that created all of that creative, the website, the offer, the images. That data would come back and humans would sit, ponder and, right, okay, well, that ad isn't working very well. I could try this. Super slow. Now we take that data and we feed it back into the black box and around and around and around it goes in almost real time. Everybody knows that you can differentiate your business at the creative end. Have a better website than your competitors. Have good landing pages that actually freaking convert. Have a better offer, the thing that nobody tests. Have a better offer. But that's how most businesses try and differentiate, right? USP has been happening for bloody decades. Over the next 1, 2, 3 years, the way that you will differentiate when everyone's using the same black box is by being smarter with your data. And the data that you feed back into the machine. Because if you're just doing what everybody else is doing, oh yeah, we sold one of those ABC 1, 2, 3 G10s and we sold it for $99.99. Same as him. But that advertiser that maybe is optimizing for profit, not just feeding revenue back in or predictive lifetime value, whole different conversation. But that's the way that businesses are going to really differentiate, is by thinking about the data that you collect, the data that you use, the data that you feed back into the black box. That's where really smart advertisers will win over the coming months and years.
Okay, so yeah, since you are essentially a search guide, and we thought this moment will never come, that Google could possibly be disrupted at the position of search. Like it's now 7 days that OpenAI released their chatbot function. Mm-hmm. I have to say, and I shared in our group, I'm impressed. I was extremely cynical about the whole art AI thing.
Oh yeah, Stable Diffusion and DALL-E.
Yeah, extremely. Like I still can't figure out where the value is going to come, which can lead to things that I'm limited, which has been proven in so many times. But also, I want to go back to the chatbot. Like, do you see OpenAI disrupting Google dominance, and in what way when it comes to search?
We're going to need a bigger boat. We're going to need a round 2. I got 2 minutes. Do I see it being disrupted? Look, they are very smart. They've got some of the best machine learning engineers on the planet. It is interesting that Microsoft have licensed OpenAI quickly. Google missed a trick there, but they've got their own large transformer models. They will be just fine. A lot of their own stuff will be built into the interface directly. I shared a post yesterday where I literally said, write 15 to 10 headlines, limited to 30 characters, and put in a URL. Now, OpenAI at this point doesn't go and crawl the website, so I don't know how it did it, but the 10 headlines were as good as a junior PPC person could write in year 1. It's very good. So it is going to become a big part of the system. And if you think about like these little AIs that do little things very, very well at the moment, best explanation of AI I've heard is by having 1 million interns. So think about all of the little tasks that you might do as a media buyer. all of the little tasks that you might do in basically any job, everything's going to change. I don't believe that AI replaces all of our jobs, it kills all the humans, all that shit, but it is going to replace many of the tasks that we all currently do. So it's on us to figure out what tasks are we actually doing. Please, if you're listening to this, go do a task audit. Have a piece of paper next to you for a week, broken down into 15-minute time slots for each day, and write down every 15 minutes with a pen and a paper, write down what you are actually doing. And then sit down at the end of the week with a highlighter and go, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit. Like, a lot of the stuff that you're currently doing can currently be done by an AI. It's just that lots of people aren't using the tools yet. Like GPT-3 is 2020 technology. So yes, GPT 3.5 has blown a lot of people away. 4 is coming in a few months. Sam Altman has said it's not going to be massively bigger. It's not going to be trillions of parameters, but it is going to be better trained, and that will probably blow our socks off as well. So yeah, it happens gradually and then suddenly. Like the last week, everybody has been freaking out on Twitter and LinkedIn, like, oh my God, we've been talking about AI for 6 years, for goodness sake. Like, we've known this day is coming. Justin Brooke and I are chatting tomorrow morning, I think, about some of this stuff. We've been talking about it for years on stage. It is going to continue to make changes, but it's on us as humans to figure out what tasks are we doing that can be done already, and to bloody do that for ourselves now. Don't wait for your boss to tell you, oh, don't do that anymore. Don't use that. Go and figure it out and elevate, like automate and elevate. What can I do with a machine? We're not going to get replaced by machines, but the winners are going to be the people that work with machines. If you're trying to get your head around DALL-E, there is a great PDF. I can't remember who created it, but it is basically, what do they call it? I think they called it the prompt book. I think if you search for something like prompt book DALL-E PDF, you'll find it's this 80-page thing. It's brilliant, but it shows you that it's not about chucking in a prompt, hit and go, and seeing which 4 images come back. It's about how you then play with that, and you block out some of the image, and you use the out painting tool and the in painting tool, and you edit and you iterate. It's the human imagination using AI as a starting point. And it's the same with the tech stuff, right? It's like you don't cut and paste those headlines out of ChatGPT and stick them straight in your account, but you use them as an idea generator. Same if you're writing a blog post, you can ask it for titles, you can ask it for outlines. It's amazing, but don't cut and paste that into WordPress, hit go. Like, use it as an idea generator and play with it. And yeah, you look at some of the stuff in this DALL-E prompt book, and there are a couple of videos I've seen on YouTube, like time-lapse videos of how a really good Photoshop person has used a tool like that and how they iterate. Maybe the lady that did the Cosmo cover, she was on a podcast recently. It was over 1,000 iterations to put this AI-generated picture of an astronaut on the cover, but she did a ton of work, and then they put some stupid headline of like, look what the AI created in 20 seconds. It's 20 seconds plus about 20 hours of human ingenuity at this stage. I mean, maybe that changes. I really need to run. I'm late for a class call.
Thank you so much. This was so much fun and such a joy for us to do. So we have to do number 2.
We'll do round 2 next year. Done, right? Absolute pleasure.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us for this episode of VidTao Podcast. Again, my name is Ian Naj, co-founder of VidTao, and really appreciate you having a listen. And it means a lot. So if you have any feedback, go ahead and email us at info@vidtao.com. Love to hear your ideas for future shows, future guests. If you want to be a guest, let us know. Love to chat. Also, just as a reminder, this show has been sponsored by VidTao, which is our free YouTube ad library, VidTao.com. Again, you can go to VidTao and look up over 1 million ads at this point inside of VidTao. They're all unlisted YouTube ads. You can see what your competitors are running, track the results on a day-by-day basis, find new ads inside of our YouTube ad library, VidTao. And we also have a premium edition of VidTao. So the library is free to access, but for full unlimited access to the library, we have a premium edition of VidTao. We also have training from our Inceptly Inceptly.com agency, which is our sister company to VidTao, where we've managed over $150 million on YouTube. We provide training on media buying, creatives, tracking, copywriting, everything in between. It's all there inside of VidTao Premium. And right now we're running a very special deal on VidTao Premium. And you can go claim that right now at VidTao.com. When you sign up for free, you'll see the offer to join Premium and go there and check that out. And last thing, we also do free brainstorm calls with our agency Inceptly. Go to Inceptly.com/call. And we love brainstorming with you on your video advertising and just marketing in general. Love to chat. So Inceptly.com/call, CALL. Would love to speak with you. So thanks again for joining us and looking forward to the next show. In the meantime, have a great week.